women who wanted to dance ballet, obviously, women who are interested in matters of choice, because women haven't always had a lot of choice. If you go back to the 40s and 50s, we were, well, I wasn't a woman then, but there were things we couldn't do. And so I also would like to reach readers who would like to understand what it was like. For me, there was a swing here. Okay, so we didn't have Roe v. Wade when I started writing the book, and then we got it. And I finished the book, but I put it aside because I thought, well, this isn't appropriate anymore. And then when Dobbs came in, I finished it and I'm getting it published. And I think, especially for young women, it's important to understand what it was like and what it will be like again if we don't fight to get that right back. We had 50 years of sensibility. Obviously, this is my opinion. Not everybody feels that way. So, and I've tried in the book to balance that out. So I have the choices and I have people on all sides of the choices. And I don't want someone to think, oh yeah, she feels that, the writer feels this, the writer feels that. I want the reader to feel, oh, makes sense for this character and this makes sense for that character. That's really important. Otherwise, you don't get a balanced look.
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. It's the author podcast where we get to meet great authors from around the world. And this author today is from one part of the country, now in another part of the country where it's supposed to be warm, but it's not, and it should be. Terry's here with us today. I'm excited to have Terri on the show. Interesting background. She's done a lot of things in the past, and she's got multiple books for you to fall in love with. So if you're looking for your next favorite author, I found her. She's right here. Her name is Terri. Terri, welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here and to talk to people who are watching.
Excellent. It's great. It's great to have you here. So you're originally from Colorado, but you're also split your time in Florida. So currently, where are you right now, Terri?
Right now I'm in Florida because in Colorado it's cold and snowy and my garden is asleep. So the three things that hold me there are not there. The beautiful weather. No. So Florida is really nice too. Yeah. So there's a beach. There's a zoo near where I live.
Nice.
So it's great.
Excellent. You just need that warm weather to come with you. That's what you need right now.
Yeah, well, it's warmer than Colorado.
Yeah.
So.
And there you go. That's good. Awesome. Let's talk a little bit, Terri, about your background as an author. What sparked originally for you the desire to become an author and start writing stories?
Well, it's woven into my entire life. When I was in high school, there were two things I wanted to do. I wanted to be a ballet dancer and I wanted to write. And I kept thinking, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And I was in New York City living, and I decided I was going to talk to an author. So I found an author and I said, here's some of my work. Do you think I could be a professional writer? And he came back to me and he said, yeah, I think you could. But I'm extremely logical and I thought about it some more. And you can only dance for a certain number of years because your back gives out. I was in ballet. So I decided I was going to do ballet first and I was going to write second. So that's exactly what I did. I had a career as a ballet dancer and a choreographer. Then I transitioned into IT. My dad would be amazed. And while I was doing IT, I concentrated on my chops as a writer, learning how to really write, how to tell a story, all the things that you need to do a novel. And then I started publishing. So that's it in a nutshell.
It's amazing. So you went to an author originally and asked for feedback and got some really great comments and encouragement from that author. We have authors who listen to the show, Terri, and they're at that point where they're looking to present their writings and ideas to an author for the same type of feedback. And if you were looking at a young author, a new author's work today, now that you've been writing for so long, what kind of things would you be looking for as ways to encourage a new author who might be listening to the show?
I would encourage new authors to find critique groups, to join workshops, to go to conferences, meet as many people as you can, and never be embarrassed to show your work. It's scary because it's part of your heart, but put it out there and let people comment and find people who are positive. I had a mentor as a writer when I was first starting to write, and she wrote on one of my submissions, "You have the capability to write a publishable novel." I still have that piece of paper, and it meant so much to me. And I've kept touch with her. And she actually interviewed me recently. I did an event at Bethesda Writers Center, and she's also going to blurb my book.
Wow.
So you just never know, So you want to keep track of people, get their emails, be nice. Here's my other advice to authors: when you meet people and you say to them, as you should, "Oh, what do you write?" And listen and listen and listen. Don't be the author that says what they write and then turn and walk away. Always ask back so that you get a conversation going. That's the way to make a connection. I can't tell you how many times I've said to people, "Oh, what do you write?" And they tell me this whole big story and it's really fascinating. I'm nodding yes, yes, and then say, "Oh, I see someone over there I want to talk to." And they walk away from me.
Right.
And it's disheartening. So don't be that person.
Yeah. I think the one part too around feedback when we're starting out might be the idea that we're not just looking for affirmations, right? We're looking for feedback, right? So instead of coming to you, Terri, and saying, "Here's my book idea, tell me it's great," I'm coming to you saying, "Terri, can you help me improve?" I think that's a difference, right? Because if we're only looking for people to approve us without giving us teachable feedback, we're not going to improve, right?
Exactly.
So we need that.
It's the only way you can grow a Teflon skin. This business, you have to have a Teflon skin. Not everybody is going to like your work. You need to find people who are in the same genre as you, on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
And then if you get the same feedback from 2 people, don't ignore it. If you get the same feedback from 3 people, get busy right away. You have a problem.
Yeah. What kind of things have you learned when you look back at your time in the ballet that has helped you as well? Because that's not everyone who just wants to be a ballet dancer can be a ballet dancer. There's a lot of work to go into this to be at that level. So what kind of things did you learn from that you carry forward into your days today?
Okay, well, it takes 10 years to learn to be excellent at anything. That's the common thought. So it took me 10 years to learn to dance, and then it took me another 5 years to find work. And what I learned from that is you never give up. I mean, you just have to pick yourself up and keep going. The bad audition, the agent who didn't like what you did, you just keep going. And the second thing is you always try to be better. You never say, I reached the peak. You're not ever going to reach the peak. I'm right now editing a book that's coming out in 27, and I wrote it 10 years ago. I started it, and then I put it aside, and then 2 years ago, I rewrote it and gave it to my critique group. I got a lot of feedback, and now I'm editing it again, and I've learned so much in the time that it's a different book, but it's better. So you just have to keep plugging away. That's it.
It's exciting. Awesome. For the readers that are here, Terri, they're here to fall in love with their next new favorite author. Can you give the readers an idea of what you like to write about so that people listening can connect with you?
I have a degree in history. I had a teacher in history in college who absolutely turned me on to research in history. So I tend to write about history, but that hasn't always been the same era. My first book I wrote about a medieval woman. She was abducted by King John, who signed the Magna Carta, and he took her away from her fiancé, made her queen. He married her. They had 5 children. When he died, she went back and married her original fiancé. So that was my first book.
Wow.
And I love the Middle Ages. That was my teacher in college. My professor was taught Middle Ages. So, and I was always interested in what people did. The battles are okay, the kings and so on, but I'm really interested in about regular people. What were their lives like? So that was a lot of research for that first book. Behold the Bird in Flight is what it's called. Mm-hmm. My second book happened because my mother said, "Oh, you're a writer? Here, take this. You can make a good story out of it." She handed me a decrepit candy box, and it was full of old papers, uh, letters, black and white photographs, and it was about my grandfather. And it was a story I never knew because they didn't tell us about it. My grandfather came back from World War I, and he had shell shock. And at that time, they didn't know how to treat shell shock. My grandmother already had 2 kids. They refused my grandfather his pension. And so in this candy box was all the information, the denials from the government, letter from a lawyer when my grandmother sued the government for his pension. There was all this information. And so I wrote my second novel is about my grandfathers, my grandmothers, their lives in Kansas. So it's not where you would think it would be. And my third novel that's coming out, now this is going to be a surprise. It's about 2 ballet dancers. It took me a long time to get far enough away from it so I could write about ballet. And I chose a kind of a risky subject. I'm writing about how choice about your body affects your lives. And now, a ballet dancer, your body is everything. It's all you have to make your art. Well, of course, you have your mind and things like that. But your body is your expression of it. It's like words for a writer. And so my third book, I'm writing about 2 ballet dancers. They're friends, they're rivals. They both want to get solos. And they both get pregnant. One of them this is in 1970. So it's quasi-historical. They call that historical now.
Okay.
I don't know. I remember the times and I don't feel that old, so I don't know. But they get pregnant. One of them gets pregnant before Roe v. Wade and one of them after.
Oh.
And it's how the legalities and their choices and what they were allowed to do and what they had to do, they want to be dancers, everything, how those times and their choices affected their entire lives and their friendships. So
Interesting.
It's kind of a saga. Yeah.
Okay. Was that around the same time frame in the 70s when you were dancing then?
No, that was after I danced.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, it was kind of concurrent. Okay. I was still dancing in Germany at the time.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So ballet is super competitive then, right? There's only so many spots, right? And
yep.
And when I watch the tryouts and things and stuff on like online and stuff, and watching people trying to get their spots in ballet, it just seems like you're either perfect or you're not. Like it's just like there's not like a little gray area where, well, you're good enough for tonight, let's go. But they want the best on stage. Is that true?
I think that's true, but the idea of perfection has kind of got perverted. It's not just in technique. And I see a lot of dancers who are technically wonderful and they can't dance. The important thing is that you use your technique to express something, how you feel about the music or the character you're portraying. It can't just be, I can do a triple pirouette.
Right.
And I think that's become very important nowadays. But when I look at people on stage, especially in like a lower tier company, I might see the technique and they're better than we were. When I was coming up, there were only like 4 professional companies in the United States, and everyone else was at sort of that beginning level. And a lot of them went on to become professional companies. The Colorado Ballet, where I started, is now a professional company. But I see people on stage who can really do the steps, but maybe can't do the dancing part of it, the expressiveness.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a physically demanding sport as well. Like you were saying, you have a limited amount of time that you can dance professionally before your body's like, we're done, right?
Yeah, one of my boyfriends in high school said, "You're one of the best athletes in this school, and you have to smile while you're doing it."
Right, you don't have a big helmet on blocking our view of your smile. So, wow. Yeah, it seems like a very interesting world that a lot of people don't have vision to. We see a ballet performed on stage, but we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. right? From a viewer's perspective.
Exactly. And in many books that are quote unquote about ballet or set in the world of ballet, the person who's writing it hasn't experienced it. And there's no way that you can really get into it unless you've experienced. That's my opinion. I'm a little biased on it, but I feel like ballet is often used as decoration for a mystery or, a movie. So you have these beautiful sets and everything, but the nitty gritty isn't there. So what I've tried to do in my book is to get behind the scenes so that you will see, what it's like to be exhausted after rehearsal or the series of rehearsals that we go through to get up to a performance, because there's always when you rehearse before you hit the stage and then you rehearse on the stage so you can adjust your spacing, and then you rehearse for the lighting, which is a terrible rehearsal because you stand around, oh, go over there to your places at such and such a time, and then they adjust the lights and your feet get sore and you get bored, and it always ends in tears. And then, you have a different series of rehearsals. So I'm trying to bring that to the fore more than you would in a book if the writer didn't know about it. But of course, the focus is on the dancers, their relationships, their friendships, and how they fall apart.
We'll talk a little bit more about the rivalry between your two characters, because I would imagine being together with an ensemble and working together, you do build friendships, but at the same time, there is that competitive nature to what you do as well. How are your two characters dealing with the rivalry between themselves in your book?
In my book, they're roommates. And so they have made an agreement that when they're outside of the class, there's no rivalry. They can be rivals in the studio, and they aren't exactly congruent rivals. Okay, so one of the dancers, Gemma, she's a jumper, she's a leaper, she can jump and turn, and she's flashy. And the other one, Patrice is a legato dancer. So she can do the pas de deux that will break your heart. She has a beautiful long line. I envision her as tall and long, and Gemma is more compact. So they are rivals, yes, but they have different strengths. So that helps their friendship. And they can help each other outside of the studio. So Patrice might help Gemma in making her arabesque look longer, and Gemma might help Patrice in exercise that will help her leap be more springy. So that's what they're doing. But then it comes to a point where they can't deal with it anymore. And I won't tell you the rest of it. But
No. We want to keep that for sure. Yeah. I was going to ask you kind of a coaching question, being that you've done this before and you've been dancing for a long time. If these two were to walk into your room for coaching, what kind of things would you have them both work on? Because again, we're not perfect. There's always things we could do better, but is there anything else that maybe character-wise or how they approach their dance that you would coach them as characters when you think about them?
Okay, well, I have a character who is a coach. Her name is Madame, and she's the director of the company. And if I saw what she saw, I would do the same thing. Gemma, when she runs, throws her head back because it's like, here I am. And that's not a good look. Underneath your chin is not what you want to show to everyone in the audience. And also, it stretches your back in an odd way. And Patrice is afraid of certain movements. And so she tenses herself. And so you would have to teach her how to relax. And Madame has a very unique way of teaching Gemma that, but I won't go into that either because it's a plot point.
Good. There you go. I like this. Excellent. Who would you say is your ideal reader for your newest book then? Who are you trying to reach?
Women who wanted to dance ballet, obviously.
Yeah.
Women who are interested in matters of choice, because women haven't always had a lot of choice. If you go back to the 40s and 50s,
Right.
We were, well, I wasn't a woman then, but there were things we couldn't do. And so I also would like to reach readers who would like to understand what it was like. For me, it was a there was a swing here. Okay, so we didn't have Roe v. Wade when I started writing the book, and then we got it. And I finished the book, but I put it aside because I thought, well, this isn't appropriate anymore. And then when Dobbs came in, I finished it and I'm getting it published. And I think, especially for young women, it's important to understand what it was like and what it will be like again if we don't fight to get that right back.
Right.
We had 50 years of sensibility.
Right.
Obviously, this is my opinion.
Yeah.
Not everybody feels that way.
Yeah.
So, and I've tried in the book to balance that out. So I have the choices and I have people on all sides of the choices. And I don't want someone to think, oh, yeah, she feels that, a writer feels this, the writer feels that. I want the reader to feel, oh, makes sense for this character and this makes sense for that character. That's really important. Otherwise, you don't get a balanced look.
Right. So the ballet part of the story is there to frame our characters, show their humanity, but there's this underlying message you're trying to share through the book as well, right?
Yes, you said that very well. Could I use that?
Oh, you can use that anytime you want. Yeah, no, I love it. I love following along and listening to you. This is great. Yeah, I think that's really important because I think stories are great to tell a story and connect with an audience, but when a story has a message below it as well, this undercurrent of, this is what the message is really about, it helps people who might not be receptive to the message on its own, in its own, without the story. The story might help to have people to kind of understand it from a different perspective. So I like when authors do that.
Yeah, that's my hope.
Yeah.
Now, I have a cousin that I'm nervous about giving this to, but I will. See.
There you go. So what's the timeline for your third book then? Do you have a date in mind for readers?
That's coming out first week of March in 27.
Oh, good.
But I have another book coming out in May of this year.
Of course you do.
That's the book about my grandfather.
Okay.
It's called When They Came Home.
Mm.
And it actually won a prize. I won a prize, the Miami University Press 2025 Novella Award. And they had over 150 people applied. And there's a story behind it. I don't know. Do you want to hear the story?
Oh, of course I want to hear the story. Yes, please.
I had written it originally as a dual timeline. So current and the past with my grandparents. And I never made it work. And then I saw this novella prize and I said, I'm going to pull it apart. So I pulled it apart and I made the grandparents' story a novella. And I didn't have an ending. And so I was working on it. And the deadline came up and I threw in a Hail Mary ending and sent it out there. And I thought, well, that's that. That was a terrible ending. So a year later, I got an email saying, we've been trying to reach you. You won the prize. And I shrieked so loud, my husband thought I'd hurt myself. He came running into the room. And it came with a caveat. We'll publish this if you're willing to change the ending. Well, I was thrilled, who doesn't want to make their work the best it can possibly be?
Right.
So I worked with the Miami University Press. I had a really good editor, the man in charge of the program, and his assistant editor was a senior getting ready to graduate from Miami University. And she was excellent. She was obviously quite young, and she had some really good ideas. She helped me a lot. So it's done now. I love the cover. I love what they've done with the interior. And in my experience, that's not always true. From talking to other writers, sometimes you get a cover you don't like.
Right.
And I got to tweak the cover from my first book, Behold the Bird in Flight. This second one, I was just out in the black hole waiting. And it came back and I adored it. And I showed it to my sister and she said, oh, that's the whole story right there on the cover. So
Nice.
So that's an exciting thing. But between editing the new one, trying to follow on the long tail, they call it, on the first one, and make events and publicity out for the second one, well, I'm a little crazed. But I wrote for 20 years and I published a few short stories in good lit magazines. Nothing, no agent. I submitted to agents. I'd have like something like 300 submissions, nothing. And suddenly it was like the universe opened. So I'm one happy camper. As one of my friends said, you're living the life you wanted to lead. Don't complain.
Right. For us as readers, for your second book then about your grandfather, is there something that we can hook our readers in, so make them want to buy this book when it comes out? I want to support you, and I want to make sure people are ready to buy when it's ready. But talk about the story a little bit more for the readers, so that we can kind of understand a little bit more about your grandfather. I'm curious, did you have a relationship with your grandfather as well?
Oh, I loved him.
Yeah.
I loved him. But they didn't tell us about it because they were afraid we would be afraid of him.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Because when he broke down, he had screaming fits. He'd have nightmares and and so on. So they didn't want him to be under any pressure, and they didn't want us to be under any pressure. So my grandfather was in World War I. He fought in the Argonne, which is one of the worst battles for the American troops. He was in the trenches. It was terrible, day after day of bombing. He was injured. They sent him back for medical care, and they fixed him up, and they sent him back to the trenches without a helmet. And I know this because my grandmother recorded stuff that he told her. So the story is told from my grandfather's viewpoint and from my grandmother's viewpoint. And it moves them forward in time. At first, it's him alone, and then it's her alone. And she wants to get married. And he came to the town. She was in a tiny little town in Kansas called Enterprise. Less than 500 people in town. He came to work on her father's farm. And they fell in love and got married. And he was fine for a while. Sometimes PTSD, as we now call it, will come out later on. It's not right away. You feel like you're fine, and then you collapse. And that's what happened to my grandfather. He had 2 kids with my grandmother, and then he collapsed. And once I have them individually meeting and married, then every chapter gets his viewpoint about what's going on with him and her viewpoint about what's going on with him and the family. And so you follow them. The government sent them to Jefferson Barracks in Kansas City. It's a real place, exists now. At the time, it was used for soldiers, but also for healing. And so he was sent there, and my grandmother wasn't allowed to come because the idea was that the wives will talk, and you'll talk about it, and it'll make you worse, which is pretty much the opposite of what they do now. Anyway, so I had all this information. It took me 2 months to organize the information in a candy box because it was all just thrown in together. And then I realized I have things. I have a tray that he made in occupational therapy. I didn't know that where it's from. My mother just said, here, take this. And on the bottom, it says made by Milton Fife when he was in occupational therapy. I have a handkerchief that he brought back from, it's a Parisian, it says Paris, and it's, he went through there on his way. I have many things from that time. So I'm going to put it on my website. Once the book comes out, I'm going to have a place on my website called Artifacts, where you can read the book and then go to my website and see the actual thing that I was writing about. So it's fictionalized, but it's real in some terms. Sometimes reality in fiction is more real than if I told you it straight out, because you'll understand the feelings. So that's the book.
Interesting. Yeah, because even for our veterans today, there's a lot of good services for them. There's a lot more knowledge than there was back then to help veterans and people returning home from active duty. But still, there's a lot of emotions that haven't changed. There's a lot of things that people are still wrestling with today. So this might be a great accompaniment and companionship for somebody who's come back from serving our country.
I was lucky enough to meet an author who had written a book about returning from the Vietnam War, and he had very delayed PTSD. And he talked about his book. I was at a conference, and I went up and talked to him afterwards and said, I'm trying to write this book about delayed PTSD. Could you tell me a little more? And he told me his story. He became a successful marketing director. He flew all around the world, but he'd been in Vietnam killing and stuff. And he said one day he walked into a conference room in Japan, and the table was filled with bodies, dead bodies, and he couldn't make them go away. And he realized what was happening, and he called the army there in Japan and went to them. And the guy said, "You're breaking down." He sent him that very day to a person who could help him. And he said, "I don't know if I could have lived if that hadn't happened to me." So I had this example of how extreme it can be, because it seemed to me when I read the book, I didn't have much experience with it. But now we know about it more.
Right.
I mean, when I read this stuff in not the book, when I read this stuff that was in the candy box.
Right. Yeah. So do you see your grandfather differently now that you've written the book?
No, because, I did. The book ends but no, he was very timid. I understand him better now.
Okay.
I loved him dearly. But my feeling about my grandmother, I mean, I adored my grandmother. She was kind, she was all these things, but I didn't know how strong she was.
Wow.
I mean, she lived in a time when women didn't do anything.
Right.
And she had to become, this is in real life, not in the story exactly, she had to become his guardian. And that was shameful for a woman to become a guardian of a man. I mean, it was shameful for him. It was a terrible thing. And, I look back and think, oh my goodness, how did she get through it all and come out so kind and so positive? So good life lessons there.
There's a lot of undertones here for you as an author about women's voices, women being respected, women finding their place, women having a say, right? There's as I listen to you talk about your writings, that seem to keep coming back as a recurring theme. So I can tell this is very important for you.
Absolutely. Okay, so don't laugh, but I have a fourth novel that I'd like to try to get out. And it is about women in theater. What it does and how external forces. I'm also interested in how, as we live our lives, things that happen that seem peripheral can become very important. And my grandmother, for instance, one of my grandfather's sisters was very important to my grandmother, and she's not directly in the book, but I was able to say, oh, I need to have a woman who is supportive in the book. So I think those little things that, might happen by accident really affect your life. And I like to fold that into my writing.
It's interesting that the contents of that little candy box, had it not been for your book, really what would have happened to those memories and those clippings and those pictures had it not turned into something that you've written as a book, right? It would just go fade away in time, right? And that's just somebody's story. And I think we need those stories right now.
I encourage listeners to take it, because we have technology now. Sit down, put a recorder on the table at Thanksgiving, or sit down and interview. I interviewed my mother and aunt, and the stories they told me about my grandmother and grandfather and about living with them, it was wonderful. And now I'm able to pass that on to, my family. So, do that. Don't lose those, because we're living on things that happened in the past. So you don't want to lose that.
Those
you could tell
carry.
I'm a history major, right?
Yes, I can tell. And I love history. So we're already best of friends. So I love that. So you do think there's a fourth book, maybe? You think? Waiting in the wings? Okay, good.
I do. If I live that long, you never know when your sell-by date is going to come up. So,
right.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see that motivation to tell great stories and to continue writing. It's nice to see how an author years ago encouraged you, that you had something there and that you should do it, you should go. That handwritten note that turned into a friendship with somebody, right? All of those little key points are all part of our story, right?
You just never know. And now on the internet, you can meet all sorts of people.
Yeah.
I met someone on Substack, and she's this is for my first book. She's uh, a member of the Royal Historical Society of England. And we talked, and she got interested in my book, and I asked her if she'd read it. Again, taking a chance. This is someone who really knows what they're talking about. And she read it, and I didn't hear from her for over a month, and I thought, oh, God, she hates it. But then she said, oh, no, let's talk. And she loved it. She blurbed the book. She pointed out an error I had. I explained why I had the error, as a historical error. And she said, oh, I do understand that. History, the way we think about history or know about history changes over time. And in the 10 years it took me to write the book, it had changed. And so she said, you can get away with that, but you have to write an afterword. So I did. I wrote an afterword explaining the error.
Interesting.
But I met her online. I just, we started talking. I found her interesting. Use your curiosity and get out there and meet people.
Right.
There's fantastic people out there.
Well, we're doing it right now. I get time with you
hope so.
through the internet, and I get to meet people like you. This is the best thing ever. And that's why I love podcasts, too, because as a reader, we get to hear the voice of the author that we love, and we get more insight into what we're reading. And now we want to go back and read it again with this new knowledge and new information that we hear through a podcast. So I think this is great.
And as a writer, I appreciate you because you're letting me tell people that I might not get to talk to. So,
right. So you never know who's listening to our conversation.
No, you don't.
And the one way we can find out who's listening is for people to reach out and to connect with you and say, I heard you on Dave's podcast and I want to talk to you about your books. So to do that, Terri, where are we going to send people to stay in touch with you as a writer? Substack would be a good way, right?
Substack would be a good way. Probably even better would be my website.
Okay.
It's TerriLewis1.com, TerriLewis1.com.
Okay.
And I have a contact button. And if you click on that button, I get an email, and I always reply to those emails.
Good.
And I get a lot of spam, but I can sort through those, and I'll know the real persons. And I'll reply to you, and we can open a conversation. If you want to talk about history, if you want to talk about writing,
Ballet,
if you want to tell me your story, ballet. Yeah.
Right.
I love reaching out to people. And if you have a book club that you think would like to read my book, that's a thrill. I mean, I can do Zoom with you. I have a Zoom account. Or if you're somewhere in Florida or somewhere close to Denver, Kansas, or New Mexico, I'll come and join you. It's just fun. It's fun. I love talking to book clubs. I always hear something that I hadn't thought about before. They'll ask me a question. I'm like, oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. So
it's amazing. So yeah, everyone reach out to Terri. I know she'd love to hear from you. Terri, when's the last time you've gone to sit in the seats and watch a ballet as a viewer instead of being on stage, just for fun, just for excitement and enjoyment? When was the last time you had that experience?
I went last spring.
Nice.
To see the Colorado Ballet. And I have a caveat here. I usually only go to see what I consider top tier companies. And the Colorado Ballet, in my opinion, wasn't quite there yet. But they were doing 3 of my favorite ballets in the world, and they were by 3 very different choreographers. And I said, I'm going. And they were spectacular. And the reason they were spectacular is because they had hired someone who is part of the group of each one of the choreographers. So there was someone from New York City Ballet. There was someone from a company in Belgium. There was someone from, what was the other one? American Ballet Theater. And they came and they coached the dancers. And that's where the important part, what I was talking about, where you have the technique, but you maybe don't do the dance. And they did the dance, and it was absolutely thrilling. So that was my last time. But I go whenever I can. Sometimes I go up to New York from Florida and see a ballet, or drive down to Miami Beach. So
nice. Beautiful, Terri. I love it. I love that you still have that passion for dance, and
Oh, yeah.
you can see it from a different perspective than most people sitting around you in the seats. So that's amazing. I love it. So keep writing, Terri. Come back.
Thank you.
Let's
Thank
keep
you.
celebrating your books. I'd love to have you back as a guest in the future. So keep
Thank
me
you.
in mind, because I'd
will.
always have time for you anytime.
Thank you so much, Dave. And thank you, everybody who listened to my talkers. Thank you for listening.
It's beautiful. Everyone, all information for Terri in the show notes. As always, reach out, sign up for her Substack. I know she'd love to have more and more people subscribe to that as well. That's a great way to connect and follow our author's journey. But definitely go to Terri's website. We'll have a link in the show notes for you to do that, Terri. Thank you so much.
Can I say one more
Oh,
thing?
please, yes.
The Substack is Terri Lewis, Words That Dance.
Nice. Beautiful.
That's a-
I like that. That's a good title for that group. Awesome. Everyone go sign up. Bring your own ballet shoes and you can do your own pirouettes and everything. With Terri's going to give you all kinds of teaching. I love it. Terri, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. Glad to have you here. I just want to let you know that you can always find out what we're doing live in the moment by going to our YouTube channel. Head over to livingthenextchapter.com. There'll be a link right there. Head over to our YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things that all the YouTubers love to say. And in our YouTube channel, a couple things. You're going to get advanced listens. You're going to get the episodes that we're working on in real time. So we record and post daily on our YouTube channel. I'd love for you to give us a follow over there. As well, we're making playlists. We have over 500 episodes. So finding the right episode for you, we're trying to group things into playlists. So if you like children's books, if you like business, you like historical fiction, we're grouping our authors together to make it a little easier for you to find your favorite next author. So head over to livingthenextchapter.com. And again, I'd love to hear from you. Hearing from the listeners of the show is great. And I just want to say thank you for being a part of the podcast family. And I look forward to having you back for the next episode. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time and your listen. Take care.